Hello everyone, it's been a long while since I've done a stream, so hopefully there's someone watching who will tell me on a Telegram if it's okay, because it's giving me a warning about my bitrate and I have no idea what that means or how to fix it, so that would be Google later, but hopefully it's running okay for now. Right, so I'll try and be reasonably quick on Bitcoin, or just reasonably quick in general, because normally I have streams that are hours long and I don't really want to do that and then nobody watches because they're too long. So I thought I'd bring up this chart which I've had from, so I left the lines in for transparency purposes. Had this since last 2022 when I drew those lines. I draw them dramatically down here just to wind people up. It doesn't mean I actually think it's going down there. But so obviously we're getting the up move, and the main reason I wanted to show it because that was sort of my target box ultimately, based on a bunch of analysis I did previously. The reason I wanted a second dip here is that we hadn't had a full dip. So again, just to show from previous, like all the other drops we had, so we had a 94% drop. I guess the drop is lessening. We had a 94% drop back in 2013, 87% in 2015, 85% in 2018, 2019, and then less, 77 this time. And I think, yeah, just because we were just above, and I did say it at the time, and I did also call longs for the 15k for the front run of this level. But yeah, I wanted to drop back into the annual zone ideally, but we didn't get it. So, but then therefore I was thinking, because we had a monthly supply here, that we would get a secondary drop that could take us back to that zone before the move up. More similar to the, I mean, that was the COVID dip, so maybe it was too much of a black swan, but anyway, we didn't get that, and it looked like we were going to fall here, but then obviously we had all the ETF stuff coming in, which then caused the final push. And, that's fair as well, because back in 2016, we just ran straight up. Well, actually, we did have two bottoms there as well. I think actually, so those years we've had the two bottoms, but here, arguably, we had a first bottom in May 2022 and then the second bottom a bit later. Anyway, yeah, I just wanted to leave those in there for transparency. So as far as I had to group everything because I have so much on this chart now, as far as the target goes, previously I've done a whole bunch of projections. So it's projection of, for each wave, there is a retracement and a trend fib. So a trend fib, for example, would go from the bottom of August 2015 to the top of the following wave, November 2017, and then the bottom of that wave in 2018. And that gives the trend fib. And then I've also done a retracement fib from the top of the wave to the bottom of the wave, and then just looking at the fib extension off that. And I did have, yeah, okay, so it's messy. I don't expect you to be able to read that, but again, what we see from previously is that the parabola matches the parabola, is that it's lessening. The waves are getting smaller. Oh no, I'm getting an error now. Let me just check Telegram to see if anyone's saying anything to me. No. Error, YouTube is not receiving enough ... enough video to maintain a smooth stream. Let me see if I can get somebody to look at this. Or is it this chat there? Let me see if nobody said anything in chat. Maybe I'll just continue and see what happens. I'll put a message on Telegram. Okay, so yeah, I'm going to ignore the error and pray that I don't have to do it again. Okay, so yeah, so what we see is the trend is dying off. So we reach in this wave, we reached the 78% trend fib, 78% for those first two waves, but then last time we only reached the 61. Now we've reached the 61. We're exactly at it, in fact, trend fib. But obviously it's so far, we aren't necessarily over. Then on the retracement fibs, we reached the 227 on those first two waves, but only the 161 on the last wave. So you can see that sort of slight rolling over. And then so far we've reached the 61 trend fib and only the 127 retracement fib. So it depends, what's more accurate. And you know, like I've always say, you know, essentially it's our best guess of what the top is, you know, and everybody who knows me knows I trade supply and demand, so I'll trade as when I see the structure roll over, not just guessing. I had this box drawn in here from when I did the projection previously. It's not, yeah, probably should be slightly, well, I don't know, I mean, it's hypothetical anyway. So what we're seeing now is obviously a reaction. We're at that 61 retracement fib. We're also at the linear 161 fib, so it's not surprising to see some sort of a reaction here. And while it feels massive, look at them in the grand scheme of things, it really isn't that big of a reaction so far. The other thing that was relevant was oh yeah, so this previous wave, like this, so the previous wave, like exactly met the log 161 over here. So again, I've just put the map, the log 161 in, assuming we're going to do sort of similar to the last wave, but we also could do slightly less. As I've said, we are seeing this parabola roll over slightly. We didn't quite hit the parabola last time, so it is possible this is the top and we do reject now. However, if we match the previous wave, it would be around the 174 mark. But yeah, so we're looking in this area for the possibility of a rejection. That's mainly on the targets that I had. And then from a timing perspective, I did do some more analysis on the time. So there were a few things on this actually. There's a big analysis I did ages ago on it, which I've still got saved on here. And where are the time intervals? I put everything in groups and I can't find the right group. So the trend-based fib time that I was saying, price range is on the drop. God, am I being completely blind now? You can tell I'm super organised for the stream anyway. Did I put it in there? Going crazy. I should have like dates. That's what I call it, dates. Okay, so let me hide the fibs now so we can see the dates. So yeah, again, it was looking at how long it took to get from the bottom of this wave to the next top of that wave, etc. And again, because we have two bottoms on most waves and then we had two tops on this wave, there's a bit of there's a couple of different options. But what they ultimately came out with broadly, if you take the two, they're both actually broadly the same lengths of time for those two waves, depending on whether you choose the first bottom or the second bottom. And then again for the first top and the second top, so it's actually reasonably easy to sort of see similar. So 1,064 days, 1,057 days. This I've got 1,078 in there at the moment, but 1,057. That broadly takes us to well, it now looks like September. I had it as October previously, but October 2025, and then for the shorter time period, March. So again, that would be the timing I'd be looking at, potentially having tops if we base on previous waves. Apparently my stream is okay, so that's good, despite my error. Puts it in bright yellow, so it's freaking me out. But anyway, yeah, so if we were to follow the previous waves, and I actually had a disclaimer that I don't think there's actually any reason why we should, but if we were to follow like similarities of previous waves, then we would expect to top out somewhere in this box, the 100 to 174, so possibly now that would be the sort of most aggressive top out, up to 174 to 180k. And timing wise, we would expect that to be around March or around October based on the previous waves. Excuse me. Okay, so that's that, and you know, really, it's guessing. So I'm not massively concerned. I like to look at that occasionally because it's always nice to say you were right if you did get it right, and then hide it if you were wrong. But as you can see, I don't hide it, I put the polyline in. Okay, so back down to the lower time frame. So one thing I did have here that I was discussing, so I haven't done any updates on the public channel just because, I mean, everybody else seems to do more when there's a bull market. I seem to do less. and just mainly because I get so busy with updating alts and all that sort of thing. So with this, one thing I was looking at, so there were what I was expecting was a reaction at 100. Obviously there were big walls in there, and it was this linear 161 fib, so to have that big wick reaction that we had there was unsurprising. Looking at the price action as well, there were similarities with the move around when the ETFs came in. Oh, that was my other comment, I guess. Yeah, the ETFs obviously have changed the landscape of this quite a lot, so I don't know, hence why I don't necessarily expect the things to be similar to prior waves, as it's a whole different market now. So, but we'll see, I could be wrong. And we do have the halving, you know, the only thing I haven't really analysed actually is tops and bottoms with relationship to the halving, so I should probably add that to the analysis at some stage. Anyway, I could see there were potentially similarities to what was coming in here. You know, we had this drop here, and that was based on the ETFs, and then we had, once we'd had that, we then had a secondary push fake out before a bigger drop that then took out all those lows, and for some reason I decided that was similar even before the 100k drop. I think I just, yeah, initially I was thinking, okay, we're going to get this reaction of 100k, and that's the type of thing I was expecting, and I can show you that here. So take it off the log scale. So it's actually played out really quite similarly, as the timeline is slightly different. You know, we had that dip, and the dip is slightly earlier. Yeah, so this is not something was unexpected for me, and I think back then we also did have a weekly demand which subsequently got broken. So there was a weekly demand, I believe. I had to check the lower time frames, and I don't want to go into that too much detail now, but I think it, you know, it did go down, it did take out those, it didn't quite hit support either in that case, before running again. So I don't necessarily think at this point that this is going to be any different. You know, we've had a bounce already today. Obviously, we've gone a lot deeper into the weekly demand than we expect. The other thing I should point out here, and one thing that you should be very aware of, because it's all over the Bitcoin chart, is what's known as the failed wave in harmonic trading. And it's when the price goes to the 113 fib. And in Bitcoin, that tends to be either the 113 or the 127. So anytime we have a sharp move up, it is worth looking. So you can see here I've fibbed from the top of that to the bottom here, and it is worth just keeping your eye on whatever the target, particularly at an all-time high where we don't have any resistance, but where the 113 to the 127 area is, because that is where you might get the second rejection. And I've shown this in the groups, but let me go back so you can see, because it's all over the place from 2021. Now my chart's gonna be loading. I really need to close all my windows when I do a stream, because I have so many charts running on so many different Chrome windows, it's ridiculous, and that's why this happens. It's really quite painful. Well, thank you. I'll try and change the time frame as infrequently as possible. So okay, back here, for example, we have firstly a bunch of smaller 113 to 127 rejections. Then we also have the bigger ones. So if this is fibbing from the top of there to the bottom of here, and that gives you, sorry, the top of there to the bottom of here, and that then gives you 113 to the 127, and it rejected this second high, major high, rejected also in that area. But even on the smaller time frames, if you do the 113, if you do the fib for this then rejects slightly higher on this, or it was still within the 113 to 127, didn't go lower, but then again, fibbing that bit, again, we've got a third in the 113 to 127 region. Similarly here, fib that last small wave, and you get the 113 to 127. And I even looked, I haven't massively looked at the lows, but I remember when I was showing somebody this recently, I looked at this wave, and it's not in there. Let me add it so you can see. So again, if we fib from the bottom of there to the top of here, and then make the fib be extension, then you can see this rejected exactly at the 127 point. So again, like it's a very, very common pattern, and it's probably the same on a lot of these waves as well. Maybe that one was slightly more. But yeah, so I've drawn the box a few times, and it hasn't worked a few times. I was also, I was wondering, the main one, excuse me, doing this fib. So after this move, why's my fib completely disappeared? Has it gone? Do not know what happened there. Maybe I think my computer is just not liking. I don't know, my fib's disappeared anyway, but yeah, so I was fibbing this in wondering if we get a rejection somewhere in here, which we didn't. So anyway, like what I'm looking for here in order for this to be like a much bigger rejection is, as always, is demand to break and supply to hold. So at the moment, yeah, the demand is super choppy here, and again, like that's why I say, it's like a wick down into here wouldn't surprise me at all. But you need to play that by ear. You'll be looking for swing failures under various levels here, and I think I've got alerts set for those on my lower time frame chart for the group. If you get any swing failures of these key swing points, at the moment we just sort of landed, that's already swing failed. Picked up support from this previous in here, but it's not ideal and not a level I would have looked to add an entry personally. In the bigger picture on all of these, I'm now looking for whether we're going to create annual 6-month, 3-month demand. And like I said, I don't really want to change the time frame on this, but yeah, I think we are going to create annual demand. I'm guessing that's the level down there at 46. No, I need to change the time frame to see. Yeah, I'm going to have to close windows when I do this stream because it's going to be painful otherwise. Okay, yeah, so we are going to create an annual demand down there, so 46 is the level that I would be extremely interested in if we were to revisit it. I think we already had that made on Korea on the Japanese yen pairs, which is part of what propelled this move. If you look at those charts, we're obviously going to create, I think, a 3-month or 6-month, 3-month demand in here, or 2-month demand. And it's the same as what I'm looking. So we'll create a 3-month that's higher. It's like 7 long entries if we revisit. And once I know what the top is, then I can fib down and be more specific about that. But initially, what I've had so far, which obviously, and I haven't, to be honest, I haven't actually looked at the Bitcoin chart very much, because as I think I've said in the group, that you need to, this needs to be traded much lower time frame. I have given a few entries on the dailies and things like that, but it's been more interesting to trade alts. And because, I didn't expect this to be revisited, because when Bitcoin breaks out, it doesn't come back. So in previous waves, I've spent significant time trying to find exactly where I think it'll bounce in here. But this time I've just left it. I've kind of gone, well, there's a 4-day at the top here. That would be the most aggressive entry if we came back there. But, and that's currently the 61 fib. But then we've also got a weekly level below, and then the 2-month below that. So obviously this whole zone is somewhere you'd look for a bounce if it does come back into it. God, the bandwidth is not good, is it? Anyway. So at the moment, no, not bearish, because we haven't broken weekly demand. If we then make new supply, if we come back and test new supply, then we can start seeing a downtrend, but the lower low, let alone. So, if you're looking at these, that's a bit dubious as to whether that's a wave, but this is still a small uptrend. That was drawn extremely badly, but it's still basically in an uptrend on the daily, on the weekly, etc. So yes, we might have come into a downtrend from a bandwidth perspective. I wanted to show you the Korea chart. Let me just see if I'm getting any feedback. Nothing so far, so hopefully it's all watchable. Is that Korea was super strong. So I put this in the channel yesterday. So obviously we had this massive wick down on Korea when they apparently went to martial law, but it got brought back up extremely quickly, and then has been, even now is significantly stronger, while Bitcoin US dollar is somewhere down in here, and that's probably for a number of reasons. Korea, does have, when we do approach tops, we do get a premium in the Korea pair, or it does tend to push later and harder. We've also had, concurrently, we've had the US dollar pumping because of the FOMC meeting on Wednesday, and stocks have dropped. And I should show stocks quickly. So US equities obviously dropped fairly dramatically. I'll show it quickly if it loads quickly. So I have all the equities on here, but so obviously S&P is the one that we tend to follow, and it had a significant drop after our following FOMC and has now disappeared. But now, and I think even comments today is now, people are saying, oh, and it's now getting bought up because of comments today. But however, it did just fall straight into a weekly demand, so not dissimilar to Bitcoin. That doesn't mean it's not going to retest. You know, obviously when we've had bigger drops here, we end up with a retest and then a bigger follow-up drop. But we still need to see that retest and, you know, what's going to happen when it approaches up here in supply. Similarly, you know, with the Dow has fallen into a monthly demand, NASDAQ is on a weekly demand, you know, all of these things are not bearish, you know, not on the high time frames. So, and while having said that, you know, a disclaimer with the fact that they are long overdue a drop, but that doesn't necessarily mean we're going to get one. You know, it's been going up all year, but, you know, they've been going up for decades. So, and I haven't done any analysis to know if we're overdue like a big significant drop like we had in 2022, nor again, but again, they're all at all-time highs, so you can't, there's no resistance to say, oh, this is going to be resistance. You know, on the Dow, we did have not a break of the 2-weekly demand, but we did like it bounced here off it, and then it's come down deeper, but again, like I say, it's still in monthly demand, so there is no reason to think that, you know, that we're going into recession and the market's going to hell. And people tend to take those, like the big drops, you know, when the S&P, for example, when everything dropped back here, everybody was super bearish, you know, and that was a significant drop. But again, just dropped straight into monthly demand. So that doesn't necessarily mean, you know, and since then we've been going up. So be careful of making those sort of assumptions. And similar here, you know, even if we do get a rejection and a move down, which will take Bitcoin down with it, we still have a monthly demand right below. So just because we have a drop like this, doesn't mean it's not going to get bought up. Anyway, back to Korea. So Korea is now back already testing this 12-hour supply in there. And as I did put in the channel yesterday, but I'll just show quickly here. We'll have a quick look at what the premium is doing. And my comments yesterday in the channel was that the premium is... the premium does seem to, or the top does seem to precede the premium going up. So that is just something to be wary of, and why I'm also I'm more comfortable with looking at the where to short. It's still lower than it's been previously. So the top in 2018, the top in 2021. I'm not sure what this top is. I guess that was the post ETF top that we had before the 6-month consolidation. So my drawings aren't loading properly again here, but so yeah, I had just put the price over it so you could see. But so when we hit the top here, the premium was lower, and the premium continued to push a bit, and that's when we got the sort of the consolidation distribution at the top before it dropped. Similar situation here. We hit the top slightly earlier, the premium then pushes, the Korea premium pushes, so Korea appears stronger at that point before the whole thing then rolls over. And even this second top here, the premium not so much, but it did come up there, and again the price hit the top before Korea caught up. And you know, maybe that's less Korea and more something to do with the link with the dollar, the DXY, I'm not sure, but either way it's a reasonably good indicator, is that the top comes and then the premium starts to push a little bit later, and we are obviously seeing that here, and it's coming off a much lower base, and it's lower this time, and you know, it can't give you an entire accuracy on this because obviously it can consolidate longer, and then this was a top, but it, you know, it hasn't dropped that much, but the Korea premium came back down. But it's just something to be aware of, that is something that could precede, that the top is something that can precede what's going on with Korea at the moment. So I'll put that chart back. Other thing to look at is US dollar dominance. So we had this obviously decent up move whilst we consolidated on Bitcoin. All the alts died significantly, and now we've retraced it. And I think my last major updates, I was looking for a bounce on this weekly demand here, which we didn't get, or it only bounced very briefly and has just drifted down into this. So then beyond that, I was then looking at the lows here, and then the lows over here to potentially get taken out. And slowly we've ended up taking out all of them. And then the next zone down here would have been the weekly or 2 weekly 6 month that we have at the moment. We're slightly front running that. So obviously with this Bitcoin drop, we have had a decent move up on this, and all the alts obviously have dropped fairly dramatically. And I've actually drawn a 5-day demand in here, but I thought it was closed, but it actually hasn't. It won't close until the end of today. But either way, there's a 3-day demand in there already. So again, this could still be a stop hunt of the high here, just to go and take out the lows if we were looking at this like a traditional chart. So now we're really just looking as to, is this going to make a high and low in here? And like I said, it's got this 3-day demand. Much like Bitcoin in reverse, it's got 12-hour demand sitting on the top of that, and then an 8-hour inside below. So really just looking for the retest, and much the same as Bitcoin, we're looking for the retest, and you know, do be wary. This could be a reversal point, but you know, it's not fully confirmed yet. You know, alts pretty much reflect that as well, and what we're seeing on alts, what I really didn't want to see actually was, you know, I was hoping we were going to get like a like monthly, 3 months, 6 months demands created on those, and you know, they're really going to need to bounce now in the next 10 days, otherwise they're going to close with really nasty swing failures on the monthly charts, which is not ideal for altcoin bulls. So with total 2, total 3, etc., I actually haven't looked at nor updated these yet. But so total, not surprisingly, just looks similar to Bitcoin, with less of a breakout from the all-time high. Still holding 4-day demand in there, has come down beneath a 5-day, so looking slightly dodgy, but not that bad at the moment. Obviously just one candle to go from. Total 2, obviously Ether, this is the one that excludes Ether, so it becomes, sorry, excludes BTC but includes Ether, so it becomes more alt-centric as we go down the list. They become more alt-focused. So this now is going to likely have, look at the 5 days, it's going to likely to have a 5-day supply, and Ether's the same. Ether currently has a 3-day supply, and it's likely to be a 5-day supply unless it really, really bounces in the next few hours. So that makes me slightly nervous for the alt market and for Ether. And those are zones that I'd be very much looking to short if this confirms. And similar, we actually saw similar. One of the things I say now is to look at the 4-day and the 5-day, because what I've struggled with is I was just looking at 3-day and weekly, but I ended up in the last 2 waves, a lot of what we're having, nothing was confirmed on the weekly until the drop had happened. So if you look at weekly charts, you know, the drop's already gone, and unless you look at 4-day, 5-day charts, you're not getting the entries. So I started, and that was part of the reason I got so busy, because I have to add so many more time frames into my analysis. But like you can see over here, for example, there's a lot of 5-day demand, so supplies in here that have been rejected. And I think if we look at the weekly, we did have a couple of weeklies on that one. Maybe it was over here, I'm not sure, but or maybe you need to look at the 5 days to get the entries, possibly because they were accelerating more. So yeah, anyway, this is not looking ideal at this point, but it hasn't broken demand, and obviously it was still in a major uptrend, so there's not much to be massively concerned about. But I just think it's just that wariness that whether we're going to go into a bigger consolidation like this now, in which case you don't want to be just super bullish and buying every alt in sight, because it could still come back down and test here. It can still test there and be bullish. And again, we've also to be aware that we're in this giant range, you know, and we haven't broken out of the high. So that's total 2, which more resembles Ether. Total 3 is going to more resemble the majors. I need to put that up at all-time high. So similar picture here. It's got a 3-day supply up there already. There's nothing on the weekly, but it's going to have a 5-day supply. So at least on some things, even if you're starting to long alts now, start looking to get some hedge shorts in on anything that you see that has a 5-day supply up here. And obviously on the weaker alts, like don't pick the ones that have broken all-time highs or that have broken out of ranges like this. There are many alts that are still within this you know, that they came up in this time frame and they were dropped quite a lot here, and there's many alts that are still there. They're the ones that are more likely to go down there. Then there's a bunch of alts that have done more like this, and they're more likely to do a higher low and, or, you know, even just less retracement and continue. So obviously pick your alts wisely if you're going to be looking at shorts, but we are going to have a lot of those 5-day supplies in there that are certainly worth looking at. So total 3 and others is going to be similar again. So others again showing. I was surprised to actually see this show more weakness, and it was actually surprising on this run to see the majors move so much more. Like, it wasn't the sort of shitcoin alts. So I saw, you know, a lot of people, like for example, were longing POPCAT and Mu and all those things that we were longing in the last run, but actually it seemed to me the bigger performers actually were, you know, random things that from history, like Algo and you know, and even the majors themselves, Ripple. So maybe like Ripple just dragged all those up, I don't know. But yeah, so I need to do more detailed analysis on this, and like I say, in the interest of keeping this video relatively short, and we're already up to 38 minutes. DeFi similar, so DeFi again in this monthly supply, and going to have a 5-day supply put in there. Bitcoin dominance, so I think I did have some hope for alt season on this, and it was when I was looking at these arrows a couple of weeks ago, but to actually have a proper altcoin season rather than just a rally, which is what we're seeing at the moment. And I think I saw something here that I quite like the look of, but I think it was, yeah, this is when we had, I haven't got the I think I had to put the others chart in above, and it was when we had, I'll just add that in to have a quick look, when we had previously had alt seasons and the rally. But again, like, you can see the market's different, and I think someone in my group made a good comment that, you know, where previously we've seen you know, Bitcoin run and then the money runs into Ether, into alts, etc. Like, it's a bit different this time because you know, Bitcoin is running because we have ETF money coming in. So, you know, our ETF buyers aren't necessarily going to rotate to alts once they leave the ETFs. They're either going to stay in the ETFs or they're you know, just going to sell out and go about their business. I don't necessarily think they're going to start buying shitcoins. So it is a bit different, I think. So I think, yeah, these were the previous tops that we had on Bitcoin dominance. I don't know if those arrows have just gone slightly off on a different time frame. That was when we had obviously much bigger moves in alts. So on the others chart, once Bitcoin topped out, I don't even know if that's the point Bitcoin topped out, December 2020. But that's when we had the bigger moves in alts. And then it looked like we might get the same thing here. And we obviously have. We've had decent moves in alts. But, you know, the structure of the dominance chart is completely different to what we've had previously. I need to take that others off now because it's annoying. Obviously this structure here is vastly different to any of these structures over here, so can we really compare? Not convinced. And again now, so, you know, we did reject, and we expected a rejection here in the 3-month supply. It's been something we've been waiting for decades. So we had a rejection on the 3-month supply, but it's come straight back down into 2-month demand and it's gone straight back up again. So we've got that improvement in dominance, and then also we've got the US dollar tether dominance chart that I just showed, hitting that 6-month demand again and potentially making a double bottom. And if we have that double bottom, I didn't comment on that, but if this comes in as a double bottom on the US dollar dominance chart, then that could be very, very bad for the crypto market in general. But it's still early days to say that. We've got weekly supplies up here. We've still got to make the higher low on the higher time frame. But if we do start to see this form an uptrend, that really isn't going to be good for crypto, and altcoins are going to do rather badly. And yeah, so I still can't be bearish on this US dollar dominance chart because we have a 6-month demand. However, we have come down, we've come down deeper inside it, and we've swing failed the low. So if I was trading this on any other chart, this would be a good long entry, having had a swing failure of the low if we survive the retest. And then you'd be looking for it, if it takes out the low this end, you'd be looking for it to take out the high this end. although arguably it already did that, but the other way around. Anyway, need to wait and see. Ether, I have to have a quick look at Ether and Ether dominance. So Ether dominance hit the 3 month and we've had an up move off there, but it's just gone again straight back into weekly supply. You know, I want to be bullish on this, but and I'll show the Ether BTC chart in a minute where I did the comparison with back over here, but it's still early days on whether we're going to be super bullish on Ether. Others dominance. Yeah, and this, I think, this better than the others chart. The others dominance chart reflects alts a lot better, in fact. So we had this bounce. I wanted this slightly lower, and this did throw me off a little bit on alts and even on the majors. I'll do a second video, separate video. I wanted them a little bit lower, but it came off a bit earlier than expected. We've had these big bounces on them, and as I said before, you know, some have rejected in this monthly supply here. Others have rejected higher in it in like the weekly or wicked through it. And we've got a handful that have gone to here. But I don't think very many. Still, most of the ones I'm seeing are in here. Disclaimer that with being like maybe biased on that, because most of the alts I'm looking at are the ones that I get alerts for. So the ones that I get alerts for are, you know, hitting those zones, and I don't necessarily like I'll record them and I don't necessarily look back at them immediately. And then when they hit an alert at this end, then I also notice them. So I tend to see the more bearish ones because I'm seeing the ones that have dropped back into demands. So then overall here, so then on a lot of these alts, we have this monthly demand in here, as you can see on this others dominance chart. We've got a weekly inside it. Quite often they've got there's a whole bunch of 4-day, 5 days in here. So and they were all quite messy. So it doesn't surprise me. A lot of the alts have gone quite deep now inside. But again, we're looking at these giant triangles. This is not necessarily a strong monthly demand. Like, it's a monthly demand that we expect a reaction, and there's no reason not to look for a reaction. But, you know, is this an uptrend? Well, we don't know yet. So this is only the first up move. You know, we've had a downtrend here. This is only the first up move in it. We need the higher low to be put in to then expect potentially a higher high. And we, you know, as you can see on this, we're coming to sort of the end of this triangle, and you know, similarly here, then, you know, this is just a triangle move, and it's still deciding, as you know, is this going to make a lower low, or is it going to go up now and make a higher high and have a breakout of the triangle to the upside? And this is a dominance chart, so I don't know if we can really look at it. Again, like, look for longs now, but just be careful. You know, we're getting to the pointy end, and you know, either, you know, we need a black swan of some sort. Either, you know, the ETFs are suddenly going to buy all the altcoins, and then this is going to go to the moon, or you know, the Fed or somebody's going to ban altcoins globally, and this is going to go to hell. So we just need to be very careful. And I think TOTALDEFI is showing a similar picture. This is looking maybe slightly better because it doesn't quite have the same triangle. But again, you know, it's still, we are still in a downtrend. Hitting monthly supply and now coming back in and testing monthly demand. So we're hoping for a bounce here that can take us up there, sure, but that could still happen like that afterwards. You know, and I don't want to miss the, you know, the bigger picture. You know, these are weekly trends that I'm looking at there, but then we do also have, you know, we're in a 3-month demand here. So there is no reason this can't do that, but it just takes its sweet time doing it. Need like an Elliott wave expert to be able to tell me, you know, whether this is a corrective wave that's finished or not. Certainly it's a good strong move up, so we'd like to see that these demands hold. But that's really what you're looking at. So if any altcoins that you're looking at the moment, and I'll show you quickly my, these are the more recent alerts that came in. I haven't fully updated the charts yet, but you know, for example, ONT, you know, I had an alert. This obviously has gone quite deep into the monthly supply on this, but you know, I've had an alert on the monthly supply here, which is rejected. And by now, but these things take time, and I don't think we're going to see, you know, the alt runs like people talk about alt season like we had in 2017. I think not for the older coins, but I mean for the newer coins perhaps, because they have no supply. So if I look at OP for example, But again, these are still sort of running in giant ranges. But something like this, yeah, potentially I would like to look for a bigger up move now. But I really do, yeah, I'm not loving the chop of these demands that we're coming from. Anyway, each order is going to need its own piece of analysis. I can't just sort of randomly throw analysis. I'd need to think about these things in more detail as to what I think they're going to do, because I'm not just perpetually bullish like everybody else, and I think there's considerations. You know, this, for example, has had 3 hits to the high and has been unable to break out significantly, has come back in range. You know, yes, it's hit 2-month demand, but it's already hit there once, it's got a second hit. If this first hit is unable to break the high significantly, then I expect to take out that low. So on this, I probably do expect to come deeper. Unless it might have a monthly demand in there that I haven't marked yet. It does. I haven't got around to updating all these charts yet. So I expect this to come deeper, but that doesn't mean we're not going to get an up move first. So for example, on something like this, perhaps we're going to move up into a monthly supply up here and then a drop deeper to take out this low at least. And maybe I'm completely wrong, we'll see. But you know, the high time, there are various time frames of analysis you can do, and you'll get different outcomes no matter what analysis you do. And that's why I always say trade both directions. You can see I've got, you know, sort of longs at the top up here, but that, you know, gives you a scalp. Longs and shorts throughout. So I'm not a buy and holder, I'm a scalper. Anyway, what else do I normally go into on this? I think so I digressed a little bit from looking at Bitcoin related things. It's more just the market as a whole as well. But things to sort of be aware of, ETF buying turned to selling. So we've had BlackRock just going crazy buying for the past couple of months, and they didn't sell yesterday, but they didn't buy either. Finally, they dropped to 0. But we have all the others starting to sell now, including Grayscale. So we had a bigger sell-off yesterday. So I'm quite interested to see what today is going to do. If we are having a bounce today, are the ETFs going to be buying back in at this point? So that's ETF data. Oh, no, my streaming. Pretty sure you're not supposed to show your stream key on stream. That was a bad thing to do. Haven't opened some of these pages today yet, so let's have a quick look at the Coinbase data. This is going to make me log in as well. Just pull that off the screen so I can log in secret. Really don't want to. Computer just doesn't want to work. I had a computer issue this week, and had people here to fix it, and it's not the same. So still think, you know, even the technician said to me it's not the world's most expensive computer, it's just sort of a desktop, and he was just like, for the sake of $1,000 or whatever it is that he came here twice. He fixed the system board, and then he managed to break the screen in the process, so he then had to come back and fix the screen. So with those 2 parts plus his time, they might as well have just given me a new computer to start with. Okay, anyway, I have now logged in, so we can have a look at this. So yeah, this is just where I look at this Coinalyze, just to see what the Coinbase CVD is. So we had actually quite a lot of buying at the top. That was fun, and then it's just sort of flattened off since then. So they haven't really been selling, or there's a bit of selling through here yesterday. So that probably would have been a giveaway. We had a major divergence there when price was going up. When was that? You know, yesterday evening, just after FOMC. Was that FOMC yesterday? Yeah. Followed by no, FOMC must have been earlier. I'm a little confused now. Anyway, forget the timing, but yeah, we had the price going up while the CVD was dropping here, so that was a fairly good sign that we might actually have a bit of a sell-off or continued sell-off. And on this rise now, we haven't got much buying coming back in from Coinbase. We do have some spot buying in general, which bring me more Binance, but we've already got open interest dying, which isn't very promising. So you really want open interest to be going up if price is going up, because it supports that move. So open interest is dropping, which implies either longs are closing or shorts are being stopped out or liquidated. And so yeah, this isn't ideal for an up move. But it's still early days, so we're going to see some consolidation. After a drop like that, we're likely to see some consolidation and messing around. So we need a bit of time to let it settle. The other thing I normally would look at, I wanted to look at was the liquidation heat map, because we did stop in a slightly random place on Bitcoin, so like where the wick has ended. It really isn't like a very solid support. Okay, so yeah, so it did stop it exactly at a liquidation level. So yeah, you should really be using this. So this is CoinGlass website, and provides this data for free, but it really tells you where the targets are potentially going to be. So this was obviously a very, very clear target on the doesn't always have to stop there. So obviously you can see here it's run through liquidation levels. So but if you're unsure and if you want confluence for the levels you're looking at, this is a very good tool to go, okay, well, you may not want to long through here, because you can see there's a whole bunch of liquidations a bit lower. It's going 92, 270, and it's gone down to take those out. So I look at Binance and Bybit mostly on here. And you get different answers depending on what time frames you're looking at. So Bybit had more liquidations at a higher level, not so much down there where Binance did. And now as we're going up, I guess, yeah, so we've got liquidations at 99, not very heavy on Bybit. So maybe there's not that many people going into shorts. I haven't gone through and looked at the detailed data, so there's obviously not that many people shorting at the moment. There's more on Binance, so yeah, 99,500 would be a potential level that could get targeted on Binance. And now we're getting bunches of longs going in that can get targeted on the downside. But yeah, that would be nice confluence for why we bottomed out where we did. Similarly, I would look at tensor charts if it's working, because it's a bit hit and miss lately for walls. It's also not logged in. I think this doesn't have my email, so we should be safe. I'm not doxing my email, or it's just not gonna load at all because it hates me. Yeah, this is because I've just got this new computer. I haven't actually signed into anything yet. It really doesn't want to. Forget that. And trading light's going to be basically the same. So I'm going to drag that off, and this is not my best stream ever, is it? For some reason my password manager isn't working terribly well either. Figure out what's going on with various things. Why is this not filling in? Excuse me, this is what happens, I guess, when you get relatively behind with things and then you've got to try and catch up, and not doing it overly effectively. Excuse me. Okay, let's bring that back. So this is the trading light. So this is paid data. Trading light, but this just generally shows me where the walls are on each of the exchanges. So Binance is very light there. It's normally got a lot of yellow going on Binance, but there's not really. Maybe I'm just zoomed out too far, but no, not really very big walls on that at all at the moment. 246. Maybe I need to up my settings a little bit. But yeah, no, so the walls have died off quite a lot on Binance there. Still some decent ones on Coinbase. But yeah, just not much around current price. A lot of stacked sell walls around the 107k mark, so I guess with people like anybody who wanted to sell at the previous high probably has already done so. Small wall around 105, 106.
But yeah, this is the data I normally check just to see again where we're going to get bounces and things like that. And again, it does look like we had a bit of a wall, and we've got a bit of a wall on Coinbase where the price ended up. But then we've also got a whole bunch of walls, so this wouldn't have been that easy to judge from the order books. The liquidation map would have been better. Anything else? Let me just check if anybody's saying anything to me in chat. Oh, hi Kang, how's it going? And hi Daniel as well. Best analyst, thank you very much. I'm not really feeling like the best analyst at the moment, I have to say. This is finding this stream today, maybe I'm just a little bit tired, so finding it a little bit challenging to get my thoughts together. But I wanted to do something because it's been too long since I've done a stream, and just to give you some general ideas and just some, like I say, not to panic, I think, too much. Panic on alts, but I just think on Bitcoin there's no real need to panic as yet. It might be incoming, but it isn't there quite yet. Ether, yeah, so I hadn't really covered Ether. So much for this being a short stream, it's now an hour long. So Ether, we had two daily demands here that weren't tested. Ether BTC, so yeah, and I commented on this briefly when we looked at the Ether dominance chart. So I did heaps of analysis that I've been sharing on from comparing back here with current price. Let me just take the price off there for a minute. So we had this sort of broadening wedge through here, and we did do exactly the same type of pattern here. And so I was always looking for lower on this, and I was hoping for a bounce a little bit sooner. We had, but again, it becomes difficult when they have these very high time frame stacked zones. So we had a monthly demand, we had a 2 monthly demand, and then we had a 3 month, and we've ultimately come down. We tried to bounce on each of those, but then we've ultimately come down into the 3 month, and we're now looking at, are we going to survive a retest? So here is, if potentially if Ether's going to survive, now is the time. And again, similar to back here, this happened also timing-wise, this happened a little bit early. The timing of this was all quite similar to current price at the time of year as well. So I was hoping for that bounce a little bit earlier in September. But again, like I say, we tracked down through those monthly, 2 month, 3 month zones over there to the right. So it's taken a bit longer. But again, here we are now towards the end of the year. We're testing this zone, and that's, when Ether typically can have a run is that last month of the year, first month of the next year. And I think that's fairly common, not necessarily the hugest moves, but again here, so that's December 2019, this is December 2020 into January 2021. Here, not so much. No, it was already... No, it pretty much topped out at that point. So 2021 was not the case. It had already topped out at the end of 2021. The end of 2022, again, not so consistent. So we're not following all the same patterns. But again, I'm not sure if those patterns align better if you look at when the halving is. So maybe that's why we're sort of more mimicking back the 2018 now, because of the alignment with the halving. You can see Bitcoin starting to come down a bit now. Yeah, so Ether BTC, this is now the time. If it's gonna run now, it has to be now. Oh yeah, but the other comment on that actually is that that doesn't necessarily mean the US dollar pair goes up, and that was something I've commented on previously, but I'll reiterate here, and why I had the Ether price on the chart is that, let's just pull that up a bit into that red circle, so that just matching that red circle with, when we had this bounce at the start of the green circle, we had a bounce on Ether there, and then the retracement came down, but then this run, we came down significantly while Ether BTC went sideways before the second run or the second test in the start of 2020, and then both ran together. But it doesn't necessarily, so this was only a small bounce, and obviously, so this time around, we've obviously had a much bigger bounce related to the top of the chart. So obviously, yeah, we've had hard to line these things up to show when you're doing it on the fly. So obviously, yeah, this time we've had a bigger bounce in price. But, you know, and now we're dropping back into demand, but that doesn't necessarily mean that Ether US dollar is going to go up. It could still mean this goes down, and it just goes down less than Bitcoin. So again, just be conscious of that. However, if you're Ether BTC maximalist and you want to hold one or the other, now is potentially the time when you want to be holding Ether over Bitcoin, even if they do both drop. Okay, what else? So Ether structurally just hit the top of the range. Swing failure of the top of the range, this year's range. No breakout. We came off a monthly demand, and we have gone through a 2 monthly supply, but only on a swing failure. So this was a 2 month supply, and this is my concern with what alts are looking like. You know, if we're gonna break a 2 month supply, you know, coming off the monthly demand, that's fine. But if we're going to break that 2 month supply, you know, you want to see it break significantly. And, you know, I want to see an annual demand created by closing above here, significantly, ideally. But, you know, so annual 6 month, 3 month, you know, even closing above this on the 3 month level, and we've still got 10 days to go. But at the moment, this close isn't looking that good. And we did have this 2 month supply. So initially I was looking for shorts, as you know, like at the just hypothetically, not hypothetically looking, tentatively looking, conscious that we were coming off monthly demand, that I've said a few times, but that we know if we do have a 2 month supply, that it, you know, it may not get very far. And, you know, it did have a small rejection here and then has pushed significantly higher before now taking out the high, but this is only a swing failure. So it is possible now that this comes back down and seeks more demand. And again, like I say, this is reflecting what a lot of the other alts look like. This is a monthly demand in here. It's got 2 week, it's got a bunch of 5 days and things like that. But if we're swing failing the high, this is not a strong zone. And you potentially expect this zone to get taken out in favor of better demand lower. So, you know, it's entirely possible that this comes down into the 3 month demand here. Don't be surprised if it does. Locally, I won't be so bearish. That's the very high time frame. Locally, we've made a weekly demand. We're testing it here. That was where I had long entry, and where I commented yesterday that I had a long entry in the chat. So now I just have to see. We're going to be putting in this 5 day supply in here. So we just need to see the reaction between these two zones, a weekly demand and 5 day supply. You know, is this one going to break down, or is this going to push it just straight back up to the moon again? You know, I had like these, so the short entries, the 2 month supply in here, and then the weekly inside it. So these like just caused a pause in price, didn't really have much of a reaction. Then it was on a retest of this high, and then we have a 3 day untested above that I was hoping for on that wick, but just got slightly missed. But yeah, so I hope you've got your long entries in now, but just be aware there is this 5 day supply incoming, and I just need to see the reaction there. Korea again is stronger. It's taken out the high, and in fact took out all-time high on Korea because it was higher in the first place, or maybe the previous was lower, I'm not sure. But yeah, again, so cautiously bullish, still bullish because we're still holding weekly structure, but cautiously because we now have these 5 day supplies. We've got swing failures, potential swing failures of significant previous highs and closing back below, but we haven't broken demand yet. So cautiously still bullish on Ether, cautiously still bullish on Bitcoin. And that's it. I think I'm going to leave it there because I'm pretty tired, and I think I need to organise my thoughts a bit better before I do a stream next time. But yeah, I wanted to just give some updates because everybody's freaking out, and like I say, I'm not wanting to be too dramatic as yet on Bitcoin. On the alts, perhaps would be slightly different. So I do need to do a separate stream because I haven't fully updated these charts yet anyway. But obviously I've had alerts come in. You know, we've got BCH in annual supply, we've got EOS in 6 month supply. So like now I really want to see how these are going to close the year, because that's really going to set the scene for what alts are going to do, or for what the market's going to do in the next 6 months. If we can hold, if these zones hold, you know, even with the bigger drops that we've had on some of these alts, where they've come down and broken these demands and have come down into these types of zones, like, you know, is that indicative of the market, or are we going to see more strength? You know, POPCAT, for example, like people like POPCAT, it's hit monthly demand, 2 monthly demand, but that structure just looks horrible to me. But that's a very high time frame. Yeah, now I look at that, really not liking the break of trend. So I need to see a little bit more on this. You know, but like I say, again, same as everything else, we haven't broken demand yet, but we do have significant supply put in. So looking again, I've already put a short on 1 week, 2 week supply up there. You know, it wouldn't surprise me if these start breaking down from here. So just be careful. Be careful with your money. Dogecoin, Doggycoin, obviously one of the stronger charts. So this is strong, but again, decent sized drop. It hasn't come back into demand. It's gonna, I think I've already put in the annual demand, assuming it's going to make one, and I already had an alert at the 4-day that's at that level. So, but again, still we're in an uptrend on this. There's nothing wrong with taking longs on this. I would want longs from lower, not from where we are right now. So, you know, we could still see a further drop down, but you know, we've got 2 options here. We're in this giant range. You know, we're coming up to the top of the range or near the top of the range. So at some point in here, either the current high or a little bit higher, we could see a drop all the way back down to the bottom of the range. Alternatively, you know, we are still bullish. We've had this retracement, and now we're just starting to make moves, waves. You know, we look for the test in here before the bigger breakout. So there's 2 major options on that, and I know a lot of things look quite similar to that with the more bullish things. But I'm liking how different alts are looking. There is a real variety of whether they look bullish or whether they look bearish. Like some of them I just look along and like, oh my god, that looks ugly. Make a bat, because that's surely got to be one of the more ugly ones. This is uglier, but it's not horrendous actually. It's like I've got this sort of annual supply drawn in, but it wasn't a strong supply. Arguably has already played out as well. But yeah, interesting times on the alt market, but as always I would just say trade both directions, because you get trades, you know, just being perpetually bullish just doesn't work for me. And like I say, this happens once in a blue moon, and in the case of, you know, on that chart, it's really arguably only happened once. You could say maybe it's happened twice, 3 times if you include these 2 waves, but these are nowhere near the magnitude of the previous waves we've had. So don't get sucked into thinking alts are perpetually bullish or we're going into alt season, when you can really just be trading both directions and making money. Anyway, I'll leave it there. If anybody has any questions, feel free to put them in chat. I will try and do another stream, try and do them slightly more frequently if I can, and then at least I can talk about the lower time frames rather than the super high time frames. But if I see something more interesting, I just don't bother streaming when this kind of, so it's difficult because I didn't really stream much through here. Did a little bit towards, I think, July, August, but then once we've broken out, there's really not much to say. Everybody's calling along everything, and you can, you know, buy most things without too much concern, and it only becomes interesting to me from a trading perspective when it's actually rolling over, because this is untradeable because it doesn't give you any retracements. This is tradable, but only on the lower time frames, you know, it's only when we start to get the bigger consolidations and things like that, for me, that it actually becomes remotely interesting to analyse. Anyway, I hope that's useful. Yeah, like I say, any questions in chat, please go ahead, and I will try and look at the majors and some altcoins, because they're way more interesting in my next video. Have a good weekend.